In a world where both shadow and light exist, why do we fear the darkness? Why are we so quick to create segregation and separation? Join me and visionary, shaman, and entrepreneur, Dr. Brett Jones, for a conversation that goes deep beyond the parameters of what you think you know to be true of our world and your being. In this episode, you'll learn the importance of surrender and what that looks like in action, why both femininity and masculinity is needed for co-leadership. You'll learn Dr. Brett's 5 stages of listening and why we must focus on creating unity within our duality. Dr. Brett Jones is undoubtedly a rare and unique expression of a human. His artistry takes many forms, from working hands-on with people through chiropractic adjustments, speaking and teaching internationally, creating online programs that span the globe, educating through workshops and social media, to connecting with his local community. After the tragic and sudden death of his brother at a young age, an event that forever changed the trajectory of his life, he spent years searching outside of himself for connection. Struggle, grit, and hard work propelled him into a collegiate football career in which Dr. Brett witnessed firsthand the destructive path of prescription drug abuse and the limitations of the medical model. Looking for an alternative, chiropractic found him. The philosophy of chiropractic is what set the stage for a life commitment to mastery of self, his craft, and raising the consciousness of humanity. Through his constant pursuit of growth, he is no stranger to overcoming the perceived limitations of the mind and body and facilitating those same kinds of deep transformational experiences for others. This episode is now amongst my top 3 favorite episodes that I've ever recorded. It's just that good. So get ready, because we're about to dive deeper than ever with Dr. Brett Jones. Hey, thought leaders, I am back, and I have a feeling this episode is going to go really fucking deep because I have with me someone that we just really connected a couple weeks ago at an event, at Daniel Diapaz's event. I saw him speak and I was mesmerized. It felt like a knowing, like we just knew each other. And so I reached out via DMs. I slid into his DMs and now he's here. So I am excited to have you here, Dr. Brett. Welcome to today's Thought Leader.
Thank you for having me. I feel blessed to be here with you and to share with you in a sacred way.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, you're a chiropractor, you're a shaman, you're like a speaker, you're a coach, a guide, a mentor. I think you're so many things. An author. Congratulations.
Yeah, that happened.
Yep. Know who the fuck you are.
Went right for it. Went right for the jugular with the title.
Yeah. I mean, my audience knows how much I love the F word. So yeah, I'm going to drop the link to that in the show notes. And for our listeners, by the end of this episode, I know you're going to be wanting to buy this book because you're going to get into the mind of this shamanistic chiropractor man here. So
my wife wants me to buy the domain shamanpreneur. So
oh, okay. So we got some new lingo, the shamanpreneur. I like that.
Shamanica. All kinds of things, yeah.
Awesome. Dr. Brett, I feel like we could go 1,000 different ways with this conversation, but there was something that you had mentioned as a topic suggestion that I really want to dive into, and it's the idea of surrender and stillness, because I feel like we hear these terms so much thrown around in the spiritual and personal development space. Like, you just need to surrender. You just need to find stillness. Right. And let's be real. We live in a world that is breeding on chaos, right? We have chaos all around us. And for so many of us, that is our programming. We're so used to running on chaos. So the idea of surrender and, stillness feels like we'd be moving backwards.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's a topic I love, and it can go many different ways. But let's go where it's supposed to go right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to surrender to where it's supposed to be.
Perfect. We're going to see
So,
surrendering in action.
surrender in action. Allow myself to breathe. Allow myself to be and not have to be anything else than other what I am in the now. So, part of surrender requires discipline. And I think that is a component that many forget. Meaning that when you surrender, what are you surrendering to? What is your awareness and the depth of your awareness to what you're surrendering to? Ultimately, you're surrendering to the highest version of yourself. And the highest version of yourself is the all capital self, right? Is spirit consciousness. And in that, it requires a vessel that has been well trained. And so for the vessel, for this body that we are animating, that is untrained, the surrendering process stays chaotic. And so that's one of the blessings of being human, is the opportunity to continue to refine and remove what is not. I think that's another piece of surrender. We're always thinking about, what can I add on? What skills can I acquire? What
Yep.
else can I accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, what can I fucking remove to get out of the way of the magnificence of who I am?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shedding.
Yeah.
It's a shedding of the bullshit, because, we are born geniuses, as Buckminster Fuller would say.
Mm-hmm.
And life has a way of de-geniusing us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we get our first trauma and we get our first disappointment and we get shamed and we start to experience the wide variety of emotions, and we start living our life through filters.
Yes.
We don't see life as it is. We see life as we're projecting it to be based on our misperceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to us, those that do the work, the real work, the self-work, the inner work, to remove what is not, to remove what is no longer serving us. And the only way that you're going to do it is through surrender. And by being vulnerable, which is one of the greatest strengths that exists for human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was powerful and beautiful and potent, and so much truth in that one download right there. That one right there
Just came in.
Yeah. It's almost like we have had it backwards for so much of our lives. And then we hit this point, like everyone can remember their point. Like we hit this point and we realize that things are not working. And then we realize the deeper meaning behind that. I'm not being who I need to be to create what it is that I want to create and experience.
Oh my God, sister. Yes. Well, because we've been sold a lie.
Yes, many lies actually.
Many. Oh fuck yeah, the
lies on top of lies on top of lies.
And actually, I'm glad I'm with a POC, because one of the lies that we've been told is to fear blackness. And so I had a huge aha from one of my first ceremonies, and in that ceremony, what I realized, that it's in pure blackness and in pure darkness that all possibilities exist. Right? So that's why if you just close your eyes, you can picture it. All of it. See, I believe that what we're working with in this dimension, this third dimension that we all get to interact with, is a light objective reality. Meaning that if you study quantum physics and quantum applied physics, what you'll understand is that in order for something to be perceived, it has to be perceived in light. And so there was the original, big study that was done, that they were shooting these electrons through slits, right? They call it the double slit experiment. And what they expected was that it was going through in particle form. And if it went through in particle form, then you would just see two rows, like two lines, right, of these dots that are hitting the wall behind this wall with two slits in it. And then they were amazed. Was when they were shooting electrons, I believe, and protons in a different experiment, they were seeing it appear on the other side of the wall when it was actually hitting, the second wall, going through the two slits in a wave interference pattern, meaning that there was multiple lines, meaning that when the electron was going through the slits, that at some point it was not behaving like a particle, it was behaving like a wave. Right? And in wave dynamics, you understand that it's potential energy. It's not so static.
Yeah.
And so, but this is the bigger point. So they're seeing these, electrons go through this double slit, and they're seeing it end up in a wave interference pattern. And then they wanted to see, at what point did this particle become a wave? And so they put cameras right at the wall, at the double slit, right? And as soon as they put cameras on it, it behaved like a particle. It wouldn't. So what they realized is the observer affects the observed. So, and here's the key. Ooh, this is good. Here's the key. The key is you can only have an observation in the presence of light. So remove the light, all potential exists. So why do they teach you to fear black? I actually brought my little poem journal here. I didn't know I was going to get into this, but I said, shit, I got.
But we're going there.
We got to get into this.
Yeah.
So here's after my first ceremony, I started a whole new style of writing, spoken word style. And so this is my first one. It was on January 1st of 2018. Why they teach you to fear black. Black is pure potential. That's why if you just close your eyes, you can picture it, all of it. Black is creation. Black is infinite. Black is beautiful. And black is death. The light, this little light of mine, locks you into perspective. One reality at one time, one God. And that's why they teach you to fear black. Black disrupts the one and replaces it with oneness. In pitch black, we are all the same color. In pitch black, we all have the same mother. I love you because I am you, brother. So the bigness snaps. The bigness in that is what I've realized is like, so we talked about kind of what got us into this hole here is the lies that we're told, right?
Yeah.
And there is a current system, right, in place, multiple systems in place that are steering humanity in a direction that benefits the few. Right? And the lie we're told is to fear black. And, Muhammad Ali has this like great segment on this. He's like, why'd the ugly duckling have to be the black duckling? And if I wanted to lie to you, blackmail you, right? Blackmail you. And then he goes on to all the, the characters that have been played throughout time, and black representing evil, right? You wear black to a funeral, all this shit, right? Because the truth is, the only way that we actually make change within this third dimensional reality is to enter a fourth dimensional, unknown, infinite source of intelligence. To do that requires you to enter the blackness, to enter the darkness. So for those that are going to create in this world, to surrender to the infinite source of all, you must be willing to venture into the blackness, into the darkness. But let's teach you to fear black and black people and black things so that we can keep steering the light, objective, third dimensional, physical reality the way that we want it to be. So we don't teach you about the shadow side. We don't teach you about the shadow work. We don't teach you how to heal, because healing is embracing the darkness inside of us. And it's not fucking easy to do. So what would we rather do? We'd rather try to manipulate it, right? And by manipulating it and trying to steer it through this educated mind, we start to numb it and start to run away from it. And look, that's how fucked up that got most of our society. addicted and enslaved to prescription medications, addicted and enslaved to doctors that are looking out for big pharma in their own pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's just throw love and light on everything and make it all better. Which
that's how I know the spirituality is bougie when you're talking love and light. You know, you're talking love and light, love and light, love and light. Well, fuck, there's darkness there too, homie.
It's fucked up. That's what I'll say about that. It's fucked up. You know, it's I think what draws people into a lot of this work is that the love and light, like I want to feel better, I want to experience better, I want to be happy all the time, I want to be positive and all this shit. And then they get to a point where they realize like, oh damn, I gotta face my shit. And not only that, but I have to own it. I have to own my shit.
Right.
I have to be with my shadow self. And, you know, I experienced this in a really potent way when I was in my initial stages of sobriety from the age of 11 to about 30, 33. I was numbing out, you know, from prescription drugs to then recreational drugs and alcohol. And when I went sober for the first time off of everything, I couldn't do anything. Like my emotions would come to the surface and I was so used to suppressing them that I would literally just starfish on a bed, like arms out, legs out, and just lay there and feel the tears falling down my face. And that was my first experience with being with my shadows, with being with my true self. And I think that like this is an example that involves addiction, but people are numbing out in so many different ways, more so than just alcohol and drugs. Like we numb out with distraction. We numb out with love and light. We numb out with trying to constantly better ourselves and get to the next best thing without really accepting where we are at right now in this given moment.
Amen.
And we cannot change what we refuse to accept. And so that is why the shadow work is, and it's so funny because even as I say that, shadow work, like there's this negative connotation associated with it, right? Like,
because we got work to do.
Right. Like, why are there light workers? Like, why can't we embrace shadow workers? Like, fuck being a light worker. I'm a fucking shadow worker. Both of us are dressed in black. Love it.
Like all day.
Like all black. My car is currently getting murdered out at the car shop right now. All black, everything, rims and everything. Like just embracing the shadows. But it's so crucial, not just for ourselves, but for the sake of humanity and our conscious collective, that we all have the courage to go there.
Right. And so if you think about the Tao, right, and the symbol of the Tao and the yin and the yin and the yang, or the yin and yang, however you want to say it, it's a unity of the two. And that's why I fell in love with Toltec wisdom, because they talk about dualism, but they talk about it in a different way. So typically, like when we think dualism, we think potentially good and evil pitted against each other. However, like one of the Toltec symbols that is most known is the Quetzalcoatl, which is the feathered serpent, right? And it's the unification of those two. And that's what we have to learn is this new embracing of the diversity, right? And so that is also represented in masculine and feminine. That forever, I mean, for me anyway, and for the majority of my friends growing up, if you were born with male parts, then you're just masculine, right? And then if you were born with female parts, then that makes you feminine. You're supposed to have feminine traits, and that's absolute bullshit. The whole human has both energies. One of the greatest examples I have for that is in a book called Being in Vibration by Joseph Rael. He talks about, I believe is a Pueblan indigenous society, where when the girls were the age of 8, they would go live in a square structure and building, and then they would learn about their masculinity so that they could grow up a complete human. When the boys reach the age of 8, they go live in this like circular dome, and they go learn about their femininity so they can grow up a complete human.
Wow.
But what we have in our society is a bunch of half people looking for a counterpart to complete them, which then creates codependency.
Yes.
Instead of, right, two complete people coming together and having co-leadership, which, talk about how powerful it would be for boys to grow up knowing it's okay to show their fucking emotions, right? It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable, which I want to get back into. Vulnerability is the greatest strength of a human.
Yes.
Because if you're going to become who you are becoming, you have to let go of who you were. And in the letting go, you have to soften and be vulnerable. And it's the same thing, with what if our girls, again, we're taught. I mean, I feel like I'm fucking do get taught masculine. I think it's the boys that need the help, but they both need help. But yeah, it's just so the unification on all pieces, and it's the same thing. Like, when most people think evil or think bad, or again they associate with some darkness, they want to create separation, right? Instead of seeing, okay, what is in that is also me. Because everything we see in our external environment is a reflection of our internal environment. So immediately, the moment I create separation from what I'm seeing on the outside, from the me, the self, the small individual ego identity, I'm saying that is not me. And I'm saying that I'm not all, I'm less than, right? And then creating judgment, and then the perpetuation of the judgment and of the separation.
Right.
So it's like we got work to do, and I think one of the biggest things that we can focus on is unity. If you look at, to me, I like to study the greatest healers of all time, and at least stories of the greatest healers. And you look at Rasputin, very interesting character, spent a lot of time in brothels, spent a lot of time in some very odd places. Jesus spent a lot of time in poverty, spent a lot of time with, people that were considered quote unquote less than. You look at Mother Teresa, you look at Amma, you look at, some of these just freaking beautiful, beautiful human beings that are just beaming with love and connection. And then you see their willingness to never create separation, no matter where you come from. One of the most empowering things that I've done for myself is once a year, we go to San Quentin prison, and 33 chiropractors will go serve the inmates. And, they're beyond grateful, beyond grateful. And I think one of the reasons they're most beyond grateful is because those of us that go, we want to see them as human. Like, I'm not going to see you. You may have, I don't know what you've done in your past. I don't need to know what you've done in your past, but I'm willing to show up here for you, because guess what? I've done some shit in my life that I was probably just 1 degree away, from getting caught and going somewhere I shouldn't be, So, I understand shit happens, and ultimately, living by this inherent truth that everybody's doing the best they can with what they got.
Amen. That's like the motto and the key rule. Like, if everyone's gonna adopt one fucking rule in their life, it's to understand that everybody's doing the best that they can with what they have, what they know, and what is available to them.
Exactly.
And that is the difference that creates unity versus separation. And it's really, really interesting, because we're in an era as a conscious collective where many people, many quote unquote leaders, are rising up and preaching about unity and wanting to create unity and wanting to move the conscious collective forward. And yet their actions and the words that they speak are actually further creating the division and the segregation that they're saying that they're trying to work against. Right. For example, the feminine movement. I'm all about it, right? But we cannot heal the feminine wound without healing the masculine wound.
Right. Thank you for saying that.
We cannot. And this is one of the reasons why everything I do is both for male and female. My events are for all. My work is for all, because I believe that we cannot heal without being in the in each other's presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way we can fucking heal.
Oh, it's powerful to heal. It's my wife actually. She was just in Atlanta, Georgia, teaching, and she teaches something called the selfish space.
Mm.
So, understanding again how self is a representation of all, and how to like truly understand what your needs, your values are, and how to help meet those needs, and how emotions, are kind of the compass for our needs. And she had 16 women show up and one man.
Wow.
And the man was experiencing, everybody's having like their opportunity to do check-ins, and the man had experienced, some things go on, I believe, in his childhood, especially in relationship to his mom. And she was inspired. Actually, one of the DJs at one of the events I just threw here in March, he was involved in this group that throws these events for masculine healing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with dealing with shame surrounding emotions and other things like that. And one of the things they do is they allow the men to be at the center of a circle surrounded by women to dance their trauma and to dance their pain. And very interesting. But anyway, so my wife led kind of a circle around this guy where like she just embraced him and spoke love into him, and then allowed all the other women to come around and just to allow him to feel supported. And I think it's so beautiful. And I feel the same way. Like there's this lot, don't get me wrong, I understand there's some powerful things that can be accomplished when you're just in a circle of women or a circle of feminine. And I understand there's powerful things that can be accomplished when you're in a circle of masculine. But I as well, I do not want to create that separation just for the work that I do. And I've been tempted, right? Because I feel like from a marketing perspective, because like I know like the people that engage with my videos, and I know like some of that stuff. So like I understand like oftentimes it's the polarity that can be attractive marketing, but I'm like, I don't want to sell myself out on polarity if I'm trying to speak unification. It doesn't make sense. And I truly believe, like again, that us coming together and finding the ways to do the work that we would do on our own. Like what a beautiful space that's gonna. Maybe me and you gotta do something together. Oh man,
I know. I already had the
my
download.
brain
Don't
just
worry.
got going.
I already had my own little ceremony about it. We're good. It's happening.
This could be real. I just got to thinking, man, because you take man, because I do think having strong female presence and having strong male presence will allow the feminine and masculine to activate within both genders,
definitely,
and everything in between very well. There's something to be said just about the female presence, and there's something to be said just about the male. As much as I love to talk about the masculine and feminine in all of us, there's something to be said about that. But again, having experience where both groups come together and are allowed to express the wide spectrum of what's possible within each of them. So how do we give our women and feminine counterparts the strong opportunity to showcase another aspect and to showcase their strength in the same one. But I'm fucking really inspired talking to you. So
yeah, I mean, it's like we're talking about the unity and duality.
Yes.
Right. It's the unity and duality. Like duality isn't about separating or putting one thing in one bucket and putting the other thing in the other bucket. Right. I often talk about, if you have the water, which is flow, water is flow. Let's say the water represents flow and the glass represents structure.
Yes.
Right. Because we have a lot of people who feed on structure, a lot of people who feed on flow. It's about finding some sort of way to work with both. The water would just spill everywhere without the cup.
Yes.
Right. But you put the water in the cup and all of a sudden you can do something with it. You can drink it.
Absolutely.
And so there's this power that comes from unifying the duality within us, the duality that's found in the entire world. And, my journey just in coaching and leadership and speaking has been one of really learning how to drop into both my femininity and my masculinity.
Yes.
And how to activate both. Yeah. And how to honor both, and then also to honor the masculinity and femininity in other people, in men, in women, in everyone.
Yes.
Versus like, I'm going to have a women's group and we're going to teach everyone how to flow. And that's just where we're going to stay.
Right.
Great. Try getting shit done.
There's got to be some driver that comes in, you know, some
Right.
producer, and yeah, so find out where you're at, because ultimately, you know, because if you become too dominant in one aspect of it, so this is the, you know, I learned some amazing things from my sisters last year, Devin Verona and Lauren Kodik, and I was teaching with them, and they said something I never heard before.
Mm.
They said, "When times get tough, I got gentle."
Mm.
And I was like, "What? Oh, gentle?" So, you know, because I'm used to hearing, you know, when times get hard, I get tough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's how I grew up, right?
Right.
When
That's
times
how
get
most
hard,
of
I
us
got gentle, right?
that's how most of us grew up. When
But
times
then
get
I
tough, get tough.
exactly. But then I got the fucking huge aha. I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what happens when you're hyper masculine. So when times get hard and you get tough, what you're doing is you're hardening the light objective perspective, meaning that you're unable to see the other options that can provide for better ease in your movement. Not to say that you have to decrease the effort. See, but there's a thing of when you have, you don't get burnt out from the work or the
Mm-hmm.
effort. You get burnt out from hitting the resistance
Mm-hmm.
of the work and of the effort. So when you allow yourself to get gentle and to get soft, what you're allowing yourself to do is listen to your fucking environment while you're moving through it. And that's again the beautiful dynamic of this unity of being able to express in both the masculine and the feminine. If I just get headstrong and persevere to keep on keeping on and just keep moving, and I'm putting the fucking blinders on, honestly, 2 degrees to the right
Mm-hmm.
may have been like you just hit that super speed highway, like you're just blasted off, and it was beautiful, amazing. But because I'm fucking 2 degrees to the left, I'm hitting just massive resistance, but I'm staying
Right.
tough. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You're a fucking idiot. You stopping up, you damn asshole. I'm telling this to myself, buddy. So the listening is so important. It's important to understand that you know, when you're driving so much action, that it's almost like the same thing. Like I feel like it's like the learning stages of communication,
Mm.
right? I remember like so you know, I go into, you know, chiropractor. I go into these reports with people and to tell them, you know, what we discover with them and what plan we recommend. And I remember like when I'm first, you know, first degree of communication is you're listening but just waiting for your turn to talk, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So like words are being said and you're like nodding your head and then waiting for your turn to talk. And then and then like the secondary component would be like, okay, I'm actually hearing the words that they're saying and getting at least like some conscious level of understanding of the words they're saying, but I'm still waiting for my turn to talk. And then the third level would be not only am I hearing the words, but I'm hearing the tone of those words and what's actually potentially some of the emotional pieces behind the words that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can step into, all right, I'm hearing the tone and I'm actually observing the physiology. You know, for anybody studying NLP, you understand that physiology is the bulk of communication, and then tone, and then words. Okay, so now I'm listening. I'm hearing the words, I'm hearing the tone, I'm hearing the physiology. I'd say there's another step. The step that I started to move into is that you are listening even when talking.
Mm.
Right. So it's like now my listening never turned off. And it's like the same thing, like in the progression of me learning the adjustment. I always felt like, okay, I'm going to palpate a system or I'm going to, you know, touch a system and listen to what's going on. But now that I'm going to adjust, I'm switching from that feminine, which is like the receiving of the information, to now the masculine, to the giving of the
Right.
information. But then as I've progressed, I realized, oh no, I'm always both. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's always a listening, even when I can deliver. And so to me, it's the same thing that the evolution can happen if you really nourish and have reverence for the feminine, that you can learn to have the feminine be a part of all of your movement, of all of your action. And there
Mm-hmm.
may be times where you want to lean more into the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely be times we're going to lean more into the masculine, but always have respect for
Mm-hmm.
both. I think is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. To have respect and to have appreciation for both,
Appreciation.
to like really understand there's a reason that both sides of anything exist. There's a reason why bad exists along good, or why shadow exists alongside light, or why feminine exists alongside masculine. Like there's a reason that all of these things exist. It's not just coincidence. Like this is divinely placed in our universe. It's all orchestrated perfectly. And yet we have human beings trying to fight it all and trying to make sense of it versus just being it.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so much power that comes from the embodiment of all. You know, we have people for our society teaches doing over being.
Yes.
And that's why we have human doing versus human beings.
Right.
You know, and if we just all focus on diving in and being both the masculine and the feminine, being both the shadow and the light, being all of what encompasses us, then that's when we really like unlock our true power and our true essence and our true potency.
Amen.
Amen.
I have a chapter in the book talks about being inspired or uninspired. So often when we view our world, we're used to thinking in relativity, where we want to make these, snap judgments and opinions where we'll either label something good or bad, right? Or evil or holy, or even assets and liabilities. So assets and liabilities was a step up for me. And I was taught by my sensei, Agzeli Congress, when I was studying martial arts with him. He said, forget about good or bad. It's either an asset or liability. But I think the step further is inspired or uninspired. So, the example I use in the book is, so many people get caught up in Trump shit, right? Oh my God.
Right.
And I think so many people get caught
seriously
up,
caught up.
Like, oh my God.
Like it's like the propeller of a plane and they're like hanging on to it. It's not that they're caught in it. They're hanging on to it.
Oh my God. So, and then the point I bring up is like, whether or not you think Trump is right or wrong, does anything change by you bitching about it? Yeah, I mean, just straight up. Like, does anything change by you having a fucking opinion? Right. You're either inspired or uninspired. If you're inspired, act. If you're uninspired, move the fuck on. So look at your life and be either inspired or uninspired. And so here's the truth. Like, I can be around certain people, and it may be a place that I don't want to really spend my time right now. And I'm either uninspired or inspired. But I don't have to create separation from, because I can still see the person as human. I can still see the person as part of a reflection for me. I guess another way to look at it is there a lesson here for me?
Yes.
Right? Because if I view it that way, because I think that's, pain. That's exactly what pain is a lesson that is yet to be revealed. And I'm not just talking about physical pain. There's definitely emotional pain, mental pain. So when somebody's talking a certain way, and you're getting super triggered, well, why the fuck you getting triggered? Maybe you still got some learning to do. Maybe you got to investigate those spaces of why you feel a certain way when somebody looks at you a certain way, or when somebody says a certain something. And don't be wrong, because you can have respect for yourself and set your fucking boundaries because you're uninspired or uninspired. But also know like where you need to learn and where you need to grow. And so, pain can be an amazing teacher. Struggle can be an amazing, confrontation can be an amazing teacher. People with different thoughts can be an amazing teacher. I would say, that's actually one of the biggest, prerequisites for growth is people that think differently than you.
It would be so boring if everyone thought the same and was the same. We'd learn nothing. And we were talking, you had mentioned Trump earlier. I'm going to bring him back. So, because this is the perfect example of duality in action, and also the learning, right? We go from two polar opposite presidents. I never talk about politics on this, but we go from two polar opposite presidents. We can all agree to that, whether you think Obama is good or bad, or Trump is good or bad, whatever. It's a polar opposite.
A little different. Yeah.
Right. It's a duality.
Yeah.
And yet they were both voted, whatever you believe, voted president. Apart from each other, which also represents the duality that resides in our population.
Mm-hmm.
And having Obama as president brought on a ton of learnings for a lot of people. Having
Absolutely.
Trump as president
Bring a lot of learning.
bring a lot of learning. If
Mm-hmm.
you choose to capture those learnings
Right.
versus like just choosing to sulk and
Right.
try and diminish him further or just
Mm-hmm.
speak smack. Like,
Or say you're moving to Canada.
right. I'm Canadian and I'm still here, everyone. I'm still here. But that I feel like that's such a good example of what's happening.
Amazing example of duality.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree.
in our collective.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. Okay, cool. So I could talk forever with you, and I can't believe time went by that fast.
What's up? Oh,
Um,
it's already been an hour.
yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Right. So that's
Mm-hmm.
more reason why we got to do shit together.
Obviously.
Hey, listeners, if you want to see me and Dr. Brett do something together, let
Let them know.
us know. Um, Dr. Brett, any final thoughts that you want to leave for our listeners today?
Yeah. For right now, whatever's some sacred dance is coming up. So let's talk about this. You are two people. You are the person that you are becoming and the person you are now. And it's important to respect and have reverence for the sacred dance between the two, because I imagine if you're listening to Ruby's podcast that you have a high need and value of growth and connection. And often when we highly value growth, we're always chasing the person that we could be, right? We're chasing the person in the future. We're chasing the next accomplishment and the next success and the bigger following and all of those things. And that's part of it. But the other part is being who you are today and appreciating who you are today. And so make sure that there's a share and a dance between the two, the person that you are becoming and the person that you are. And find the sacred moments to truly, truly, truly appreciate who you are. Know that gratitude, being thankful, is one of your greatest connectors to the now. So whenever you feel like you're living too much in the future and there's anxiety, there's worry, and there's that chase that's happening, return to gratitude. Put it in the I am. I am grateful. I'm grateful for all that I have, knowing that the more that I'm grateful for what I got, the more I get to be grateful for. So be grateful for the little things. Be grateful for a roof over your head. Be grateful for a warm bed to sleep in. Be grateful for clean drinking water. Be grateful. Aho.
Aho. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your gifts, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your potency with us. I am positive that our listeners are going to want more of you. So why don't you tell them how they can stalk you online, and I'll drop all the links in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can find me at Dr. Brett Jones on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube. Just search Dr. Brett Jones. We have a new book, Know Who the Fuck You Are, that just released a week and a half ago. That is currently on Amazon. Just search Dr. Brett Jones and you should be able to find it. Yeah, and then I have a practice in Oakland, California called The Source Chiropractic, where we're a beacon of service and love and connection for our community. And if you ever want to come visit me out there, you feel welcome to. And hopefully there will be some new events and workshops with Ruby coming up. And yeah, all kinds of things.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being here. And to our incredible listeners, thank you for joining us on today's episode of Today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you enjoyed this episode with me and Dr. Brett, let us know. Just hit us up on social media at I am Ruby, Dr. Brett Jones. All the links are in the show notes. And be sure to drop a rating, review, and share this message. If you have any other questions for Dr. Brett, I say just go buy his fucking book. Okay? Go buy it. And that's it for today's episode. I will see you here on Thursday for another brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.